All right, so this is super exciting because we're going to talk about a research paper that Nikki and I wrote many years ago, but we thought that like we have with these other kind of talks that we do is just to kind of share how we got to this point. And I was reflecting back upon when Nikki and I met, and I think this would have been, I'm thinking, you see, you graduated in 2013, right?
13, yeah.
So you came here in 2011.
Yeah, to start my master's in
Right.
2011.
But we met in 2010, as I recall,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
You came
For the summer
for the
before.
summer. Yeah, so Nikki
Mhm.
contacted me. I think it must have been like maybe early 2010 about spending time during the summer as an undergraduate doing research. And I remember thinking at the time that no one has ever contacted me from another university as an undergraduate wanting to come here. So this is interesting. This means this person's super motivated and has a lot of initiative. So I had that really positive impression. And then that first summer, you spent here like 3 months, almost the
Yeah,
whole summer,
3 months,
right?
yeah. It was the whole summer for the most
How
part.
was that?
Hot.
It was hot.
Hot. I learned how to tie rebar.
Yeah.
So that was, and worked with Chad, with Dr. Goodnight, I guess
Chad
now.
Goodnight, that's right.
Yeah, so worked and learned how to tie rebar, but then had like a little mini research project that you had given me to
What
do.
was it? Do you remember? Because I don't remember. I don't.
It was creating code in MATLAB. I think we were
Okay.
creating hysteresis.
Okay.
That was like my first actual insight into any kind of seismic.
Okay. Interesting. I'd
Seismic
forgotten that
design. It was
detail.
it was a nice break from tying rebar too.
Mhm.
I remember that fondly. Got to sit in the air conditioning for that one.
Yeah, like it is now, a little bit
Yeah,
warm.
yeah.
Okay. And then you went back to Clemson for
Yeah.
a year, and then you graduated. And then I was looking back at the emails. Like I still have those emails from way back then. And then how I think did you start in like May or August? This I don't remember.
I think I started like halfway through the
Yeah,
summer. I
that's
think
right.
I took a couple weeks
Yeah.
just to kind of take a break and then started. I think it was the summer sometime.
Okay. And then this was a pretty significant project in the sense that the number of tests that you managed to do,
Yeah, it was a lot.
and I look back at it, I mean, there was
13?
there's something in that
13?
range.
I think it was 12 or 13 tests.
And these are huge. These are huge reinforced concrete poured steel tubes, and we had them constructed. I remember we went to Sanford Contractors to visit with them, and they helped. They constructed they built the test vessels, and then we had to get them here, instrument them, and physically test them and report it and do all that in just 2 years. So that was pretty impressive to be able to do that.
Lot. It was fun though. It was a lot.
And then eventually wrote this paper. I don't know what the date was. I think it's 2008. I think it came out a couple of years after.
I think it did.
So
I think I was working when we were writing this.
I think you're right. Yeah. So we thought we'd go over it, but just kind of talk as we go. And so this was the paper, right? And we talked about the whole point of the paper was to summarize all the research on the effect of the diameter to thickness ratio and the seismic behavior of RCFSTs. So you want to see if I can move slides. There we go.
Oh, now there's the animation's working.
It is.
So, I mean, our SCFST is has the steel cage inside, and then the reinforced concrete, and then it's all encased in a steel tube.
Yep.
And so Alaska was who the project was for, and they use these a lot. Really, they use those steel pipes as permanent casings, but wanted to start really accounting for them in their seismic capacities as well, or how to account for their ductility.
Yeah, and they've been using these for. I think that when I was a student at UCSD, they were still using them then, and they were developing a new detail between the RCFST and the cap beam way back. So they had that figured out, but what they didn't really know what to do with is like the below ground,
right?
The
below ground plastic hinge.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And so this just talks about that.
Yeah, so just how it's built, where they drive the pile into the ground, and then they drop this cage in. And then they fill it with concrete. And
they had two different techniques, as I recall. I don't remember the limits, but I remember that where they would drive them up to, I feel like it was a D/T of 48 or so. They would drive the pile, right?
And then the other one they would pre-drill it.
They would have to drill it, and then that opens up other opportunities. You get much more flexible pipe, more thin wall pipe. But that, of course, calls into question the behavior, how that might change as you change the D over T.
Right. And yeah, so during an earthquake event, you have those two plastic hinges, or could have those two plastic hinges. And so we were really focused on that one underground. So yeah, so we had this setup where we had those actuators, and the actuators moved together to mimic the constant moment region. So we created that constant moment in the middle of the test specimen.
Did we do? I can't remember. This was probably going to come up. Or did we vary that for this? We kept it the same.
No, we kept it the same.
Yeah. So
I believe it was 6 feet. Is that?
I think before. In an earlier project, we were looking at the effect of that on the length of that, and we decided that wasn't significant. So the setup was complicated, but it worked pretty well. So you did reverse cyclic load. You had pins. Don't we have to put it with the pins through here? I don't.
Yeah, we had a pin on one side, and then it was like a roller basically on the other. So one side, that side on the left, rotated, whereas the side on the right was essentially fixed for displacement. It could rotate, but it couldn't move.
Instrumentation.
Yeah, we used the string pots and strain gauges, and although we got some information from that, I think we just really used it to verify what the OptiTrack was having. So yeah, it was the OptiTrack where I guess you guys still use it.
We still do. Pretty often.
Yeah. So yeah, it captures what XYZ location every second for all those points.
Yeah, so you can see them on there now. All those little blue dots. So the OptiTrack was these. That's the brand name for it, but they're just basically like little targets, right? That emit infrared light, and then these cameras, for lack of a better word, are set so they only record the wavelength of the infrared light. So it's not visible to us, of course, but these things are then emitting light at their at a wavelength like about 1,000 or so nanometers, I think. And then, like you said, you can record it. I think we were doing like 1 hertz, but it'll record much faster depending upon the number of points you have. But for a test like this, that's plenty fast enough.
Yeah, because I think each test took somewhere like 6 to 8 hours, 5 to 8 hours, something like that.
Yeah, we've been using these on the shake table recently, and then they're scanning it much faster, much higher rate. Yeah, you can see them there.
They're all instrumented.
Yeah, so these give you like an entire strain field, right? They give you position, and then from the position, and there's the camera that's measuring the position.
And I think part of the way through, we put the camera. I don't think it was at the beginning, but we put one of the cameras. We got another camera, and we put it up above so we could get the strains. On the top too, which I think that was the scariest moment in my lab, suspending that camera and being like, oh my gosh, I hope this thing doesn't fall. Break.
Yeah, we got 3 of them now, so to be able to now we can get all sides of it. Yeah, but I remember that I forgot that we started with the one, and then the second one came during your project.
I was, pretty terrified the first time we lifted that thing with the crane. Like nobody watched.
Yeah, and then
So ran the 3-cycle response, and then these are the thicker wall pipes. So the D over T of 33, 48, 64, and 85, and the force displacement responses.
And you can already start to see some of it's kind of hidden, but you can see the sort of the fatness of that versus the one of the thinner pipe. You can already start to see it condense a bit. Yeah. I mean, it's even more dramatic.
Especially by the time you get to that 192. It's that one buckled, I'm pretty sure, right after yield. Yeah. It buckled really quickly.
But what's interesting is, like, I guess we'll get to that later, is you still been able to maintain strength of the section. That was the key message we got from that.
So this one began at ductility 1. So, and I mean, you could barely see, you can see those buckles a little bit here. And then they were pretty evenly spaced, and all the buckles were evenly spaced, which, I mean, doesn't really affect any of the strength, but it was just interesting to me.
It is progressing through.
Yeah, and you can see, like, down at ductility 6, how, like, it's like a triangle. That buckle is really, really tight.
Yeah, so the local strains get pretty high, of course, and then, but still, you're still able to dissipate the energy until ultimately it fractured. I guess that's probably ductility 8, 7 or 8.
6 point something, I think. Okay. Yeah, and then you can see obviously it's not as fat. That's true. This isn't as fat as the other one. And then this is the other extreme. I had to look for those buckles a little more. They're a little harder to find. They didn't start till 5, but then they actually ruptured pretty soon after that.
Yeah, the delay between the buckling and fracture was a lot less,
It was a
right?
lot
For the
less.
thick wall and the thin wall pipe, there's a huge gap between the
Mhm.
buckling and the fracture. Um, and also, I know we can look at it visually, but did
Mhm.
we? I don't recall if we also. I know we do that for the reinforcing steel, where we use the OptiTrack to identify buckling. Did we ever do that with this too? Do
I
you
think
remember?
we
Like looking like the
from
markers and when they're.
mm,
So mainly
it
visual,
was just visual,
which is
yeah.
easier to see with the pipe, as you can tell.
Yeah, and
Was
I mean, and you could see because once it started buckling, when you tried to plot the stress strain curve across the diameter, I think it's
yeah.
at there at
Then
some
you can
point
tell.
it stopped. So
Mm-hmm.
we had to kind of extrapolate what that stress strain
Exactly.
curve is to
Mm-hmm.
assume what it was going to be in the steel
Mm-hmm.
because we couldn't interpolate it. We had to extrapolate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can see how this one obviously it's a lot fatter, kind of more what you would expect, really.
It's almost like a steel structure, right?
Yeah,
The way
that's
you look at the hysteresis.
right.
Um,
And then, yeah, the measured strains. That's what we were saying. The measured, like the strains or the
Mhm.
displacement between the OptiTrack,
Mhm.
they weren't actually correct. They weren't representing
Right.
what was happening in the concrete
Mhm.
and in the reinforcing steel. So we had to average all those out
In between the buckles.
in between
Yeah.
the buckles and assume that it was the same across the whole length.
But you had a lot of points there, so
No.
you could get the cross section strain pretty readily, and all those strains in the middle would be okay. But those ones right around the buckle that were
Yeah,
the
I think if what I remember correctly, I think I
Yeah.
did one for each column,
Mhm.
and then if it was outside of a certain like factor, I would discount that and then average them again,
Mhm.
and then kind of just to get rid of the outliers that way,
Mhm.
instead of doing it like one by one, do it more of a mathematical
More
approach.
systematically. Yeah.
And yeah, that was obviously this was the interesting part. I remember in that first, or I don't know if it was the first test, but when that really thin pipe buckled, we're like, oh, this is gonna be over soon, and it kept going. And once we started putting, doing more tests and putting more on this chart, realized that the rupture, I mean, as you can see, it happened pretty much at the same strain.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
It
Didn't really
matter.
affected by that. It just the onset of buckling. So if you're worried about like serviceability, I suppose that might be a concern, but not in terms of strength. It was never really an issue.
Yeah. And then back to you said the damping, I think we thought by looking at this that it was going to be pretty significant.
Yeah, so I mean, just the shape of the loop. I mean, here you can see them just isolated, right? This is, I don't know what ductility that is, but it's a pretty sizable ductility, but you can tell the difference in the, visually it's a lot. So we thought maybe it's worthwhile to investigate the damping. Yeah.
So I looked at the damping that way and then
Came up with those equations.
I mean, there is some difference. It looks like it goes from what, like, oh man, it's been a while, 15 to 17%.
Exactly, around there, yeah, 15 to
18%, something like that.
Yeah, once you go through and develop, it's like the area is significantly different, but once you go through the actual calculations and you do the equivalent viscous damping, that difference starts to dissipate a little bit. But it was enough, more than you would expect, like in reinforced concrete. You have less scatter than this, and it was following what you'd expect by the higher DOTs, higher damping, and so
it kind of showed that like composite, not composite behavior, but the relationship between the steel and the concrete. How it's not really truly one or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the strain compatibility, as I mentioned to you, since I've been working, this is the one question that has come up every time we have one of these, is whether we can say that it's one section or not.
And you did on one of your tests, you put the...
Yeah, so we put it outside of the constant moment region, so because we didn't want, a big hole in the pipe. So yeah, we cut that hole. I don't remember. I think it was one hole we cut, and we put the OptiTracks on, or the little markers on the concrete itself, and then on the steel around it.
Yeah, we had I remember there was, you had markers on, because you cut a little hole and put a marker in the concrete, and you had one parallel to it. I think it was like a bunch of, maybe a lot of little holes.
I think that might have been it.
So we could get both, if I remember correctly. And then you saw the strains were the same.
The strains were the same. I think we said it probably slipped a little bit, but overall it didn't actually change the calculated strength. And even in that constant moment region, when we calculated what we thought yield moment and ultimate moment would be,
they were matched.
They were matching as it was one composite section. So whether,
that's the proof, right?
Right, that's the proof, right? So whether it slips a little bit or not is not really the issue in this scenario.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think a lot of it, the bond, the fact that once you start deforming that, you get the curvature. That keeps you, provides you with some of that bond to ensure that plane sections remain more or less plane.
Yeah, they're pushing together. It's not like you're just pushing on the concrete section.
Yeah, it's not an axial push on the core.
You're not just putting it on the core, right? It does all act as one section.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we covered most of this.
Yeah, the damping. Yeah, the high D over T ratios. Those really thin walls have less energy dissipation.
And then these have been used. I mean, these are constantly being used by Alaska DOT, and as a consequence of this, now they're able to really deploy this in a manner that's lets them calculate the strength of the end-ground hinge if they're worried about it. Like in a single column bent, that would definitely happen. It definitely would happen. In a multi-column bent for the D over T of 192, it might happen because the strengths are not that different. Future research. This is interesting. Yeah. We kept this right. I said, wait a second. This was 2015. We actually did some of this.
I think we had the pipe piles and the soil. You guys did that.
That came after you.
That's what I thought.
That was Diego Guede. So maybe we'll have to he can do the next presentation. So we can pick up with that. We did that.
Just been voluntold,
Exactly. We did that. We did find out predict damage, and we didn't really focus too much more on that.
I think we did create somewhat of a finite element model, and I had forgotten about that. We did create a finite element model during this research to mimic the buckling, and we did get that to work.
Okay.
But I think we ended up. I mean, we had to use shell elements, of course, to mimic that buckling.
It's better than mine. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Cobwebs are coming off. But yeah, we did. I don't think it was significant in any real. I mean, not that it wasn't significant, but all it did was, just correlate to what we had shown in the lab, which was obviously what's happening in real life. So.
Okay. That was good. No. This is 2012, 13 probably.
Yeah, that was our little office at the time.
Yeah, so it's Nikki on the right, and you were at that time. Were you the EAI president already? I think, right?
Maybe, probably.
Student chapter president. We started it back up again.
I think that may have been what this picture was. That what this picture was for?
Yeah.
I think it was again.
Yeah. So it's Nikki, and then Stephen right beside her, Stephen Fulmer, and Kelly Herrick, who is now in Utah. Stephen is somewhere in the East Coast now.
He did move back. That's right. Yeah.
And then Yu Hao Feng is in China. He studied bar buckling from an analytical perspective, and then Chad Goodnight on the far left, and I think that's
his project
one of his tests that's right behind there.
So yeah, it was a fun group.
Yep.
Fun group. So.
Very nice. So what about now? What are you up to? Do you want to talk about what you're up to nowadays?
So I'm a senior bridge engineer at STV. So I do kind of more the technical side of things. I do some project management, but more focus on the technical side. So actually, I don't do a whole lot of seismic, but I am right now.
Okay.
So it just happens to work out that way. I have some projects in South Carolina. We're doing some seismic design and seismic checks on, but really just to kind of work on bridge projects all throughout the Southeast. Some in North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina. Yeah, a lot of steel design actually.
Okay.
And then some concrete design too, reinforced concrete design, and some pre-stressed girders. So just a little bit of everything.
Okay, good.
It's fun though.
And you're local, so we've kept in touch the entire time, so we see each other pretty frequently. So very nice. Okay, well, hopefully this has been really helpful to people. And,
I hope so.
And they can see what some things that happen behind the scenes and. In terms of how this works. So.
And didn't show the bloopers. Like the time I let the plug out of the actuator and spilled hydraulic fluid all over the lab.
I forgot about that.
That one was awful because I was on the scissor lift and hydraulic fluid was like pouring
everywhere.
out.
Okay.
And Jerry was down there trying to tell me how to put it back, and it was a mess.
Oil everywhere. It's like a giant salad, right?
It was awful.
I purged that from my memory. Now that you mention it, I do remember this.
That was probably. I didn't like being on the scissor lift anyways, and then when it started coming out, I was like, I'm over this.
No. So nothing ever happens perfectly, right?
No.
You may imagine
that was a learning.
A lot of things happen, but.
And that was definitely a learning moment. But luckily, everybody was fine. I mean, there was no damage to people or property, so it was fine.
No, that project went really smoothly. I mean, it was
did.
just, it was 2 years and a lot of tests, a lot of
Mhm.
reporting, a lot of analysis, and
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't
very-
think we even talked about the last half of the test here, but that's when we changed the rebar ratios.
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
So we
it was-
kept, I forget what diameter thickness ratio we picked. It was something kind of in the middle, or
Mhm.
it may have been the thinner ones.
Yeah. And then you
And
have
we
different
changed the
internals.
rebar.
Was it longitudinal steel only,
Mhm.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was just the longitudinal
Mhm.
steel. And I think at the end we really didn't see any change,
Mhm.
is what we
Just
concluded,
there.
is in terms of the seismic behavior.
Yeah.
The amount of longitudinal steel really didn't affect it.
Yeah, I think we must have put boundaries on what their typical values of reinforcing steel
Yeah.
that they use, lighter, lower level and for the higher levels.
Yeah, and had a few in between.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that too. Yeah, good.
That's pretty well.
All right. Well, thank you
Yeah,
for taking the time.
this
It's
has been
exciting.
fun to kind of go back through it.
Yep. Alrighty. We'll end the recording here, and you know how to get in touch with Nikki. She's on LinkedIn, I know. And
I am.
You have a YouTube channel yet? No.
But my LinkedIn is under Nicole.
Okay, Nicole. Okay. All right. So, thank you.